Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Your respite care starts here. My name is Rachel Watkins-Peterson, and my co-host is...
Hi, everyone. I'm Leslie. I am with Respite Care Association of Wisconsin. I'm the program manager. And before we start, I just want to say I work from home, as our whole team does. And I have 2 small children and 2 dogs back here. So I'm sorry for any background noise that you might hear today.
That is real life type stuff right there. All right, so today we're really excited you're here. We're going to go ahead and just get right into it. So your respite care starts here. Learn how RCAW makes it happen.
Oh, I am having problems with my screen share here, everybody. I'm really sorry.
I think I heard a good old Wisconsin ope.
You sure did. You sure did.
I have to call it out whenever I hear it. It's one of my favorites. No problem.
I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Let's get back in here. All right. So we are a statewide nonprofit. We do all things surrounding respite care. So whether that be grants to support family caregivers and getting a break from caregiving, training for respite care providers and family caregivers, resources, education, engagement, business development plans for new or existing programs, grants for existing respite care programs, and then our registry as well. So we try to come at respite from all angles, whether it's the provider, the funding, the understanding, all of these things. We want to make sure that we're covering respite on all angles. Caregiver health is impacted by respite care in many ways. We could talk about this for the whole hour if we wanted, but health issues are a big one. So any sort of health ailment that a primary caregiver has is going to be emphasized when they're caregiving and when they're not getting a break in that caregiving. That can be all sorts of things like listed here: fatigue or poor sleep, high blood pressure, obesity, asthma, those types of things. So all of these things just will be enhanced if we are not getting a break in caregiving.
And I can touch on the mental and emotional health issues. This is something that affects everyone, whether you're a family caregiver or not. However, not getting that break. And I do want to back up and just show some empathy that if you're a caregiver, because these webinars typically have family caregivers, otherwise known as informal caregivers, primary caregivers. But if you're an unpaid informal caregiver, you are experiencing this at 2 to 3 times the rate of someone who is not in that role. And professionals, if you're new in your role to serving family caregivers, we just want to reiterate from our RCAW standpoint and the work we do across the state, it's really important when you're talking with caregivers, people don't know what respite care means. So always, and the other issue that we find is caregivers not identifying as caregivers. They think I am a mom taking care of my child with, chronic health needs. I am a partner caring for my loved one living with a cognitive decline. This affects the lifespan, birth through end of life. And that's the first thing that we try to, if people aren't identifying as a family caregiver, they're not going to learn what respite care is, and they're not going to know that there are services and supports that can help them. So I really just want to emphasize that, whether you're here and you're not sure if you're a caregiver or if you're a professional serving family caregivers, first we need to help them identify that yes, you in fact are a caregiver, and also educating on what respite care is. It's a short break from their duties so they can rest, refresh, recharge. That is, I hate using the word generic, but that's kind of more of the generic term because you hear rest, refresh, recharge. And a lot of times caregivers aren't going on these elaborate vacations with their friends. They're getting a break from their duties to get root canals, to get knee surgery, to run errands. So another thing we like to say is respite care is in the eyes of the beholder. So now that I can step off of that soapbox, we can talk about the mental and emotional health issues that happen when people don't get breaks from their jobs. If you're not a caregiver, and you're working an 8 to 10 hour day, you check out and you go home, and yes, there's still roles and responsibilities, but it's a little bit different when you're not caring for someone or multiple people with some type of intellectual, developmental disability, cognitive impairment, etc. So chronic stress, emotional exhaustion, and burnout. We always like to refer to family caregivers because they are the backbone of the healthcare industry. What happens, or what is happening, what has already happened rather, with the backbone of the healthcare industry if they are chronically stressed, emotionally exhausted, and burnt out? Bad things start to happen and emergencies arise. And I'm sure as I was talking, everyone else got to read these bullet points, but I just really want to stress to people, and I again, I don't want to repeat myself. I say this with a lot of empathy. I'm not preaching at you. I'm not, lecturing you, but it's so important to get that break. And there's a lot of barriers to getting breaks, but we're here to help you break down those barriers. Many, oh,
go ahead.
You can tell Leslie and I are both like love presenting on this, and we're jumping at it. So Les, I'll do this slide, and I'll let you start I'll ask if you start the next slide, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
So these are 5 benefits of respite care, but there probably could be 555 if really sat here together and made that list. But if we want to protect the backbone to the healthcare industry, family caregivers, we're going to want to make sure they're getting, they're addressing their social and emotional and physical health. A lot of times family caregivers, when we're working with them across the state, we hear that they feel like they've lost their sense of identity. And I don't like to use the word just, but now they're just their spouse's caregiver, and that is their only role in life. And that's not true. So how can we as a society keep funding streams coming to help get them breaks and to help them have a sense of identity outside of this lovely role that they do day in and day out? Reduces friction between the caregiver and care recipient. Whenever we talk about respite care, it's so true. We talk about the benefits for the family caregiver, but just step back and envision yourself, regardless of age and regardless of condition, someone that is taking care of your needs is burnt out, stressed, and exhausted. I know when I am, I'm not the nicest, I'm not the most patient, and I'm not generalizing family caregivers, but I might be shorter with my responses, maybe using a tone of voice that's agitated. So having caregivers get a break, and we're going to show you how, and help you through that. That is such a benefit for the care recipient to have their primary caregiver come back refreshed and recharged. It decreases institutional placement. We all know, I have to watch my words, in the political climate that we are currently in, and in years past, we've seen a lot of institutions, so assisted livings, group homes, skilled nursings, because of reimbursement rates having to close. So now we're in this place, or we have been in this place rather, where there's not a lot of options for family caregivers for institutions like adult family care, respite centers, etc. So if a caregiver is going to get burnt out and say, I just can't do this anymore, where does the care recipient go? It's not an easy question. Also, it prevents bad habits. I don't have the site to source with me, but, and I'm not stereotyping or generalizing, but a lot of times family caregivers, to cope, they're eating their feelings, which I like to do from time to time. Maybe they're pouring 3 glasses of wine at the end of the night because they just are so overwhelmed, etc. So getting that break can prevent bad habits for them to continue. Next slide.
Thanks, Rachel. We have the next thing we're going to talk about. So we've talked about why respite care is important, right? The next little while here, we're going to talk about the funding for respite care. So grants for family caregivers. We have 3 grants right now: the Caregiver Respite Grant Program that provides direct respite care funding, the Supplemental Respite Grant Program that provides $250 for supplemental services, and the Healthy Meals, Healthy Minds Grant Program, which is new and we're super excited about, which also provides $250 to keep family caregivers eating nutritious meals, as well as keep their mental health well. It's important for us to talk about that we use both state and federal funding to support all 72 counties and 11 federally recognized tribes. Depending on funding, things may or may not change. Currently, we can have family caregivers apply for all 3 of these grants simultaneously. They can reapply every 60 days. But because of funding and as Rachel mentioned before, kind of the political atmosphere we're in right now, things may change. It really depends on how our funding is coming, what kind of funding we have, and those types of things. So we want to just encourage folks to always go back to our website. That will be the most up-to-date information to find out the reapplication period, or if you're eligible to apply for all 3 and things like that. So please check back on our website as often as you can. Okay, we will dive right into the Caregiver Respite Grant Program. This grant program provides financial support for family caregivers for up to 5 days of respite care within a 30-day period. You can hire whomever you choose as that primary caregiver, as long as that provider does not live with you or the care recipient. And you can reapply every 60 days, and that clock starts at the last date of awarded respite. That was a lot of numbers and a lot of jargon. We're going to kind of break that down. So, all right, I'm going to pause for a second and we're just going to talk through that. So the Caregiver Respite Grant Program and the financial support can provide for 5 days of respite care. That means that you can use 5 hours per day, you can use 2 hours per day, you can use 24 hours per day, but they all have to fall within 30 days of submitting that application. And you cannot say, take those leftover hours and spread them over even 6 days or 12 days. It has to be 5 days of respite care. To be eligible for this grant and our other grants, I'm just going to run through these, and if you have questions, please let us know. But these are the things that would make you eligible. If you have applied for a long-term care waiver or other program and you're not expecting to receive services, or you're waiting for an approval, you're on a wait list. And in Wisconsin, we don't always refer to it as a wait list. This could be any sort of period of time in which you're not receiving services because either the case manager has too heavy of a load, or you're waiting to hear back, or you're not sure, any sort of waiting period would qualify you under that number 1 that you're waiting to expect services. You've been denied long-term care waiver supports. That can be a financial denial. That can be a functional denial. If you're denied for any reason at all, you would be eligible for our supports. Number 3 there, you've been approved for any support and you've exhausted that funding. So that could be you've received some funding, and some funding is allocated weekly, some is allocated monthly, some is annually. So let's say you have received your funding and you have gone through it in the first 6 months, right? And now you don't know what to do. You've exhausted your funding. Now you can come to us and you would be eligible for our programming. If you have applied and you're receiving supports and you need flexibility for services that are not covered by funding supports. So this has a lot of different meanings for our other grant programs that we'll talk about here in a little while, which are the supplemental respite grant program, as well as the Healthy Meals, Healthy Minds. A lot of different long-term supports don't cover those types of services. So you would fall under this category where you need flexibility for the services that are not covered. This can also come into play. Let's say you live in a county where the funding that you receive has to be used through a certain agency, or it has to be used by certain people, or in a certain time period, or only at an adult day center. And that does not work for you and your care recipient. You may need flexibility in your services, and we can kind of talk through that option number 4. Number 5, you've applied, or I'm sorry, you have not applied because you're ineligible. So we don't want to make you go through all of the steps to be denied if you know upfront that you're not going to be eligible. So if you know that you're over assets, or you wouldn't qualify for certain programming because of different things, we don't make you go through to get the denial. It would just be you hadn't applied because you're not eligible. Any questions there so far? And I can't see anyone, so you're gonna have to unmute or.
I've been monitoring the chat and I don't see any there.
Okay.
I'm here. My name is Periana Williams. I don't know
Hi.
why. I can see you guys, but I can't even see an option where I can cut the camera on.
You can't see an option where, say that again?
So I can cut the camera on, I guess, so you guys can see me.
I can
Okay.
see you. We just,
Okay.
we have our view, because we're screen sharing, we have our views. I can see you because Leslie's sharing her screen, but
Oh, okay.
we're all good.
Okay.
Any questions there? Or are we all set?
I'm all set.
Awesome. Okay. So the way that this grant program, the Caregiver Respite Grant Program, which again provides funding for direct respite care services, the way it works is all online. So this sometimes, like Rachel said, there can be barriers to respite care. This can once in a while be a barrier for folks that don't have internet, they aren't comfortable using a computer, those types of things. And I always encourage people, lean on your natural supports if you have them. If you have a neighbor, a family, a friend, anyone who's willing to help you, lean on them for some help in getting you through this application process. If you don't, the next step would be to go to your local library. Libraries are very underutilized, but they have wonderful resources. Oftentimes they have people that are more than willing to help you set up an email and those types of things. If that also is not an option, you can give us a call and we can work through some of these things. You will need an email address. That will not be, you will have to do that. However, I have sat on the phone with folks that are cracking a laptop open for the first time, or that are looking at their smartphone and in a new way today because they're going to try to figure this out. So we will work through it. It just can be a challenge. So I want to make sure that we address that as a barrier, and we know that there are resources surrounding that. So the first step for a family caregiver would be to complete the eligibility criteria form. This form is a very short form. We're just going to take down your information. You're going to tell us which county you live in, those types of things, that you are a primary caregiver in the state of Wisconsin, that you've looked for other help, but you can't find it, and that you're just in need of some assistance right now. After you submit that to us, you are going to receive an email as the applicant that says, hey, thanks for completing that. The next step will be for you to complete, or for you to reach out to your funding representative for them to complete the supporting documentation form. So if you are in the adult world, oftentimes that is going to be the ADRC that can help with that. If you are in the child world, the county, the CLTS department, those types of CCS oftentimes can help with that. If you have any questions as an applicant as far as who you would reach out to for that, we are more than happy to help. So after that professional completes the supporting documentation form, and that form is necessary for us because we are funding of last resort. So we want to make sure that you've tried something else. Our programs are meant to catch people falling through the cracks. They're not long-term lean on supports. So if there are more stronger supports for you, we want to make sure we're connecting you there rather than not. So that's what that form is for. But after we have both of those, we will send you a link to the application in your email. You'll click on the link, you'll tell us a little bit more about you, a little bit more about your care recipient, and then you will tell us which 5 days in the next 30 days that you are going to request respite for. You will tell us who is providing that respite care. Is it an agency? Is it an individual? How do you know that person? Do they live with you? And if they do, they would not qualify. So we want to make sure we find someone who does not live with us to do that respite care for us. You'll tell us the hourly rate and then the totals at the end. As long as those rates fall within market rates, typically there is not an issue. So this grant does not have a cap. There's no maximum, there's no minimum. However, we want to make sure we're falling within market rates. If it's an agency, oftentimes we won't dispute that. But if it's an individual, let's say you're applying for this grant and you are looking for someone to take care of your husband, and really you just need companion care. You just need someone to hang out with him while you run to the grocery store. We probably will not pay $45 an hour for that service because that wouldn't fall within market rates. But if you have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to us about what would be appropriate and those kinds of things. It is all based on the acuity of care oftentimes. After you have completed your application and it has been approved because you went through all of the correct steps, then we will send you an email with the approval. And then we will also, in that email will be the next steps. So the next steps are going to be the grant report that needs to be completed. After the last date of respite, so after you've entered in your 5 days, that last date is when you can complete the grant report. You will tell us, yes, in fact, this did happen. at this rate for this amount. And if you've used an individual, a family, friend, neighbor, an individual provider, then we are going to pay you as the primary caregiver directly. And that check will come to you via the mail. If you are using an agency and they are willing to accept payment after the respite has been rendered, then they will complete a grant report for agencies. So there are two different forms. The one for agencies is going to ask for a bit more information on that agency, and then we can pay them directly. The benefit to that is anything over $599 that you receive from RCAW, you will receive a 1099 for at the end of the year. So it is important to note that if you are looking to go around that, you would want to see if the agency or if you can find an agency and if they are willing to accept payment afterwards. After that is paid out, you are asked to complete the respite care experience survey. In order to be re-eligible, you must complete this survey, and then you can reapply every 60 days. This survey helps us just make sure we're doing everything right. Make sure that you feel like this process went well, that the respite actually was helpful for you. And then we in turn are able to use this to prove that, yes, what we're doing matters. Respite care matters, and it is changing people's lives. We try to make things simple for you. We have a step-by-step guide that's available on our website that has all of the live links other than the application itself. However, everything else is listed right there, and it's in a nice format where you can just look step by step how everything happens. If this is not helpful for you, we also have a video. Some people are visual learners, so we want to make sure that we're offering that as well. It is a quick 5-minute video, and it has a wonderful voiceover with great animations that can kind of help. And it sometimes things click a little bit better when you can watch it and see it and how it all works. Real quick, the last thing here is just our last grant period and where we were at, the number of hours. The most important thing for me is that bottom part right there that says 100% of our impact survey respondents answered yes to the question, did RCAW grant funds positively impact your emotional wellness? That is huge, that every single one of the people that in our last grant period that received grant funding from us, we impacted their emotional wellness in a positive way. Rachel, did you want to jump in?
Sure. I just want to, absolutely. I want to address that in case anyone has not seen the chat. Yes, we will absolutely be emailing anyone who registered for this webinar, the slides, as well as the link to the recording, as well as okay, so Holly asked, do caregivers have to be certified for this program? Holly, do you mean family caregivers or like a paid respite care provider? Who are you asking about the certification?
For family caregivers, like me for an in-law, for example.
No, I'm not sure what
Okay.
kind of, no, so you don't have to be certified. Really, like the how do I want to say this? The supporting documentation form, so it's not a certification, but really what that's doing is that is helping RCAW be good stewards of state and federal dollars, as well as a professional, because it is linked to their email when they fill out the supporting documentation form. So we do know, who it's coming from. That's just verifying that they are a family caregiver. So
Okay.
kindly take out the word certified, but it kind of certifies the stamp of approval that you're eligible when the supporting documentation form is filled out.
Yeah, because her caseworker, social worker told her she qualified for hours, but it had to be certified. So I wasn't sure what that meant. Maybe through Medicaid.
IRIS or like a Medicaid funded
Yeah.
program. Sometimes the provider needs to go through a few steps, and it might be a certification. It's all counties at times can run differently, so it's hard for us at times to like keep track, but I'm gonna bet that that's what that was, that the person they're gonna hire, if they're gonna be paid with Medicaid dollars.
Yep, that's what it was. Okay, so this would be something that they could possibly qualify for separately.
Yep, as long as they meet an eligibility criteria.
Yeah.
But if they can utilize Medicaid dollars, they have to use those.
Then they wouldn't. Okay.
Or I just wanted to point out, because it's popped into my head, if someone's going through the process and they're waitlisted and they're not able to receive services yet, because of that, then they could use these grant programs. So it's essentially like, if nothing else can serve them, we will.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So Les, did you do supporting documentation form?
No, I can if you'd like.
No. Wait, we have more questions. How many people can you take care of at a time? Karen, can you expand on that? Are you coming from the provider's perspective, how many people you can care for at a time?
Yeah, it's a provider.
Depends on how many care recipients are in the family. So we have worked with families where there's a foster mom and she has 3 different children with complex medical issues. But if there's one care, go ahead, Les.
Are you talking like an adult family home, like how many people you can serve, or like if you are an individual provider, how many you can serve at the same time? Because that would be kind of a complex question where it would really highly depend on the funding source that would determine, all of those regulations.
But
Okay, just like individually, like if you wanted to become a provider, how many people could you take care of at one time?
So we'll get into that in a little bit. It depends on age, if it's overnight, but specific, and that's a great question. So I don't want to shut it down, but we'll talk about that in a little bit when we talk about bringing respite to your community. This is specifically a grant program to help family caregivers hire the person of their choice so they can get a break. Does that work for you?
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
Cool. No worries. No worries. Okay, so the supporting documentation form. So I know Leslie said, but like everyone feels like, oh my gosh, how am I going to keep track of this? So don't feel like you have to walk away being a subject matter expert. You're going to get these slides. You're going to get the presentation. You'll get our emails. You can reach out to us. I know sometimes when I'm on the receiving end of a webinar, I get flustered and overwhelmed, but just don't worry if you're not going to remember all this. We're here to help you. So what happens is first the family caregiver fills out the eligibility criteria form. Once again, they have to be a resident of Wisconsin. They have to be the primary caregiver. And there's one other one. And of course, I'm blanking now that we're on a live recorded webinar, but it's on our website. So once that eligibility criteria form gets submitted, then the person who filled that out gets an email with a link to the supporting documentation form. That goes to the tribal ADRS, that goes to the ADRC, that goes to the county, depending on the age of the care recipient. And that professional then verifies that, yes, essentially they're a family caregiver. Yes, they need respite. They specify what grant program the family caregiver is applying for, and they click what eligibility criteria meets that family's situation where they're at. We receive that. And then you would get the link to the application. So we cannot give a link to so you're not going to get the link to the application right away. You have to submit the eligibility criteria form. We get the supporting documentation form. This does sound like a lot, but these documents were designed to be quick and easy for the family caregiver to fill out, and also easy for the professionals to fill out. Once we get that gets reviewed, everything's on the up and up. You get the link to the application. One question, is there a training that informs? Okay, love the questions, keep them coming. If literally, please don't stop asking questions, but if they're not pertinent to what we're talking about right now, we assure you they will be answered. We're just going to try and do it in a fashion that makes sense, because trust me, I can rabbit hole and talk about 8 topics at once, and it's like a nightmare for people listening. So quality care preference, we'll get to that just in a little bit. So my favorite, and I think consumers' favorites, part of the Caregiver Respite Grant Program is it supports self-direction. What does that mean? It means that the family caregiver or the care recipient can self-direct who is providing services and supports for them. So as Les said, there's no minimum or maximum dollar amount. However, we do work within market rates. We do have, I'm just trying to see what hasn't been talked about. I think Les has covered most of this, but this allows someone to hire a friend, family member, agency. Sometimes, depending on the acuity, a nurse needs to come in to suction out a trach. You're probably getting sick of us saying this, but not every family is like a puzzle piece or identical cookie cutter rather than the next. So the acuity, meaning the level of care, is different. So that's, sometimes when we say there's no max dollar amount, understandably people are like, what? But it depends on what level of care is needed for that caregiver to get a break. And I can hop on into emergency use of the Caregiver Respite Grant Program. So these, when I say these, I'm referring to the bullet points. Those bullet points in our eyes is what constitutes, and many other professionals' eyes, as an emergency. So essentially but we do require some sort of document as being good stewards of state and federal dollars, and we want to keep them coming so we can serve you. We have to do our due diligence, but sometimes if it's on, let's say, a Saturday, and county agencies and ADRCs are closed, and there is a medical emergency for a family caregiver, without giving names, I'll say one. There was a female family caregiver. She fell, she jacked up her knee pretty bad. It was already bad, was rushed to the hospital, and she needed like surgery right then and there. Who the heck is going to care for for her loved one? She had a family member about 2 hours away. Here I am on my soapbox, but a lot of times family caregivers, they hate asking for help. But if they can say, hey, I can pay you, they're going to get the help. They're going to be able to reach out. So we're not going to have to wait till the ADRC to, send in a supporting documentation form until Monday. We've gotten pictures of, I'm just trying to think of some type of supporting documentation forms, like a doctor's note or some kind of anything that verifies that there is an emergency going on, whether it's to prevent abuse and neglect. And I know a lot of times, and we empathize with that a a lot of people aren't going to self-report, like I'm losing my mind and I'm at risk for like lashing out and being abusive, but that can happen. So respite care can prevent that. Is there a mental health crisis for the caregiver or care recipient? Medical attention in the immediate future, to attend a funeral, wake, or celebration of life? Has there been a loss of employment or work-related situation? Now the caregiver might not be able to pay for adult daycare, regular, your standard daycare, or whomever is taking care of the care recipient, but they need to go look for work. So how are they going to pay them? We can help. We've received employee notices stating that, so-and-so has been laid off. All of this is kept confidential and not shared. Again, the due diligence that we're ensuring that there is a true emergency before we can help. Or is there drug and alcohol counseling or support? And we do, or is that needed? And I keep saying it, but we listen and we don't judge, if you will. So we're not here to judge so-and-so needs, alcohol counseling. It's just, we just want to get you some help and get the documentation kept confidential to prove it. Next slide. That last slide just kind of encapsulates my ramble about what we're going to need, but we want you to have that slide to reference for the future. And the next grant is the supplemental. So I'll tell you about the supplemental respite grant, and then I'll hand it over to Leslie for the Healthy Meals, Healthy Minds. So reiterating that currently family caregivers can apply for all three of these grants at the same time. So the supplemental respite grant, it's $250 right now. People can reapply every 60 days. At times that changes. Check out our website. It's at the top of the grants webpage. It's at the top of every specific grants webpage. And you also have our emails to get a hold of us. Next slide. It's similar to the Caregiver Respite Grant Program when you talk about the application process, needing the eligibility criteria form completed by the family caregiver, the supporting documentation form completed by a professional serving them. As Leslie said, we want to catch people falling through the cracks. And also, people can have self-direction in who they hire. The difference is the allowable expense. The why behind this grant program is about 5 or 6, I don't know, time flies when you're having fun, but 5 or 6 years ago when we only had the Caregiver Respite Grant Program, we would have family caregivers ask or professionals come to us and say, I'm working with Susan, just pulling a name out of anywhere. I'm working with Susan right now. She doesn't need the traditional respite care, but she is working full time. She's coming home. She's caring for her child, adult child, spouse, whatever the situation looks like. She really needs help with managing lawn care or snow removal, or what would really give Susan a break from being in a constant fear is that there were grab bars while she's bathing or toileting. I mean, all of these things you see on these allowable expenses 1 through 9 are a break from either physical overwhelm or mental overwhelm. So housekeeping and laundry, lawn mowing, snow removal, transportation, we do have to be careful that it's to and from respite or medical appointments, sensory items, potentially for someone living with autism or on the spectrum, or someone with dementia. Sometimes those sensory items can really help, as well as technology. I'm reading them all out of order, so forgive me, but assistive technology, sometimes a respite of worrying about is an emergency response system, whether someone is an exit seeker or an eloper, or some people will say they run or they're a runner, or but an exit seeker as having door alarms that can really, so the caregiver can take a shower without worrying their loved one's going to run out of the door. Same, I won't read all of these through because we have quite a bit to get through still. However, these are the step-by-steps in how to apply for this grant, and you'll receive all of this, and it's on our website. And the next slide shows that also for this grant, we do have a step-by-step guide 1 through 5 on our website. If people want the document to follow, we also have a video that walks you through the application process. And I'm just really transparent with the whys. We decided that was a really good use of funds to have some videos, short videos made, because it helped us at RCAW serve family caregivers faster, because we realized in our minds, we design these grant programs, we think it's an easy application process. Well, it's not to someone who's completely overwhelmed. So that's why the why behind us having these tools for a quick grab and go to help you walk through the process.
Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah.
We're going to jump into Healthy Meals, Healthy Minds. This is a brand new grant program that we are super excited about. It comes from the national strategy and to strengthen and support services for family caregivers. And we are doing this by helping them access nutritious meal kits and invest in their mental health and wellness by funding those supportive services. The allowable expenses, nutritious meals as respite can be in-home prepared meals or delivered meal kits. We did do a deep dive into make sure that every corner of the state of Wisconsin has somewhere, someone or some program, HelloFresh, Blue Apron, or Orders Up, that will deliver these meal kits to them. This, just to note, does not include grocery shopping, does not include fast food or restaurant eating. Mental health and wellness allowable expenses. If the primary caregiver is in need of some mental health counseling, whether that's in person or telehealth, some wellness classes like yoga or meditation, gym memberships, community memberships, self-help books, weighted blankets, light therapy, or virtual subscriptions. Same thing with application. We do have a how to apply document in case that is helpful for you or your loved ones or the people you serve, in just how this program works and making sure that all of these things are here. A real quick frequently asked question. You do have to complete each eligibility criteria form separately. So all three, if you're going to apply for all 3 of these grants, each one needs a separate eligibility criteria form. That's just so our system knows which lane you're in, to make sure that we're getting you the appropriate emails, documentation, all of those kinds of things.
All right, the group respite grant. This is one of I absolutely love this grant. We love all the grants, but this one I particularly love. So this is a grant for agencies or already established entities, if you will. If there is an event where okay, let me back up. So an ADRC, for instance, recently applied, and they are going to have a caregiver conference, and one of the barriers, family caregivers can't go to conferences where they're going to learn new tools and learn about new resources and just have that connection with other people in their shoes, because there's no one to take care of their loved one. So they'll apply for this grant, they'll hire respite care providers, they'll have on-site respite care, and that allows family caregivers to attend activities. I think the next slide shows some, yep, they're a little bit out of, yeah. So this is, this is some of our most recent recipients of the Caregiver Respite Grant, or excuse me, the Group Respite Grant Program. And it just kind of shows the diverse populations that are being served, from young to old, siblings. That's also a forgotten about and underserved population. Siblings are the longest standing caregivers for their loved ones. We're serving Hispanic communities, we're serving tribal nations, and yeah, really great things are happening. I do know with one of them, and you can stay on this slide less, but one of them, they had respite nights for family caregivers, and that particular organization serves children. They had rented out a section of a children's museum. These were really highly trained, qualified providers that families were familiar with, and they got to drop off their kids for 3 hours on a Friday night and go take a break. So that was really, really cool. All right, so I can talk about the startup grant, and I just want to read quality care preference. Is there a training that informs of specific steps for respite agencies to onboard clients who meet respite criteria yet is not linked to a waiver program? Okay, so we'll get into that with bringing respite to your community. I'm not sure if you are familiar with that, but we'll make sure that you are before we leave. The startup grant, this is, okay, we're talking about all these barriers, right? Who's going to care for my loved one? Who's going to pay for that? How am I going to find someone, etc. Well, oftentimes it's hard to find agencies that provide respite care. So this startup grant is for people who either want to start a new respite agency or expand into another program with an how am I going to make this make sense? It's either a new respite program or expanding respite services to one that's already established. For instance, we've had in past participants where an awarded agency, they were able to increase their respite hours that are available by like 20 hours a week. So that's an expansion. That's okay. So this one is up to $25,000. It helps for startup program costs, equipment, supplies, staff education. And I want to say that the prerequisite is that you have to take the Bringing Respite to Your Community workshop. We'll absolutely get to that. But I also want to reiterate that this is really a highly, highly, highly competitive program. We do think that it's incredible, that it's highly competitive, but I just wanted to be very transparent about that we get a lot of applications, and we can only award.
I have a question. So if I just recently became respite certified, so that means I can qualify for this grant, correct?
If you see the bottom of the screen, yes, you could, but you have to take the Bringing Respite to Your Community. Have you already done that? We'll talk about that workshop.
I believe so. I know it was like a long, I believe I have already.
You're making it feel normal, not even able to remember.
No, that's okay. That's all right.
We can check it out for you. We have a lot of learners, so you have to take Respite to Your Community. And honestly, I'll be even more transparent. We have people that apply for the startup grant, and then when the grant reviewers are scoring them, they haven't even taken Bringing Respite to Your Community. So that's like an immediate, unfortunate 0, and we're not able to approve that.
Okay.
If you want to reach out afterwards too, I can help you figure out, number one, if you've taken it, number two, you know, how you would go about finding these things. So if you want to just send an email after this, feel free, we can connect you.
Okay, thank you so much.
You bet.
Thank you. You have a good day.
Super quick pause. That applied for, I just want to address the questions. How much is the last, so the supplemental respite grant and Healthy Meals, Healthy Minds are $250.
Okay.
I don't know if I talked about the grant report, but individuals have to track their expenses, keep receipts,
Okay.
invoices, signatures, and we
Okay.
do audit that at random.
Okay.
I applied for the respite application, so I need to reapply again. Okay, that's good. Sorry, I've already applied for the respite care grant and was notified there was not enough funding. Should I apply again now that there is funding? Les, I know you manage the bulk of our grants, so
Are you willing to disclose who that is, or do they disclose themselves?
I'll let them unmute and disclose. I mean, it's public because it's in the chat.
Oh,
Sherry?
yes. Hi. Yeah.
Hi.
I had applied for the respite care grant. I want to say the beginning of the year, and I
Which
did
grant?
the BRYC. No,
The startup grant.
the starter grant. Yes,
Okay.
but I was notified that there wasn't any funding because it was around the time where funding was being cut. So is there
Okay.
now funding?
For the next grant cycle, we do currently have funding for the startup grant. I'm trying to remember. I can tell you since January, it's been an utter end of January to current. It's been a little bit of a blur with what's going on, but I believe, no, we did have a private funder fund the startup grant. We could do one, but there was a point in time, and this is like acronym soup. So the caregiver respite grant and the supplemental respite grant, we did have to pause those for a moment of time to understand what was coming down the pipeline. But currently right now, we're still functioning as normal as we can.
Oh. So should I resubmit the application?
I'm going to be honest, I'm still having a hard time. Which one did you apply? So the startup grant, is that the one for agencies? On the website, let me check when the next application cycle is. So we want to make sure that, for you to be eligible, you did go through the Bringing Respite to Your Community.
Yes.
And then the next startup grant cycle and it's on the website, but I'm happy to share it here. The next application is due December 15th.
Okay.
And then we announce the awards December 29th.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Your favorite, you want to talk about their registry?
Absolutely. So we have another barrier is who is going to provide that respite care. When I talk about the registry, I always start with, if you have natural supports, if you are a primary caregiver and you have someone that is willing to help you, lean on them. If you have an agency, a preferred agency, most definitely that's a fantastic thing. However, some people don't have that. Some people do not have any natural supports. Some people are new to the area. They don't know anything like that. If you are looking for a provider, we have what's called the Wisconsin Respite Care Registry. This is just a bridge. This is just a connecting point. We do not employ any of the people that are listed. The only requirement for individuals listed is that they have taken the respite care provider training, which we will get into a little bit more in a moment here. But if you're an agency, you can be listed. It is filtered by county, age of care recipient, type of respite. I would love to be completely transparent here and tell you that we are in the midst of transferring all of our registry to a new platform. Unfortunately, we've come across a couple of hiccups that were unforeseen and have made things a bit more challenging. So we've lost some registry providers that we had on the registry on this new platform. We are working diligently to get that back up, to make sure that those numbers are back up and that folks in every county have an option of who can provide care for them. There's no cost. There's no cost to the primary caregiver. There's no cost to the agency to be listed on the registry. It is a simple form for an agency or an individual provider just to complete. This does not mean that we have a relationship with them. There is no employee-employer relationship. There's no contractor or subcontractor. We just host this registry to make sure that we have a bridge connecting folks. We don't do any background checks. That's really important to note. So if you find someone, if you're a primary caregiver and you find someone that's an individual, you will want to run a background check. You will want to make sure that you do an interview, that you make sure that you're connecting with this person and everything feels right. Similar to this is how the registry profiles look. So there can be a picture, they can attach a resume or a website if they are an agency. They would list the counties that they're working or that they would be willing to provide respite in, their name and contact information, a little bit about themselves, and any licenses or anything that they have here. The free training courses, we have a whole lot of training courses available. The respite care provider training, which is what I just talked about, that is required in order for you to be listed on the registry if you are an individual, is the first one there. We have kits for caregivers, which are knowledge, ideas, and tools. Also kits for respite care providers, and then bringing respite to your community. I can talk a little bit about the respite care provider training, which is a nationally recognized training. It is absolutely incredible. There has been a lot of work put into this. It is a free training to anyone who wants to take it. If you are looking just to have a side career, if you are looking to make this your full-time job, if you're looking to volunteer in communities, anything like that, this is a wonderful, wonderful resource for you. You can work at your own pace. It is 10 different courses that are all required to complete, but you don't have to complete them, in any sort of timeline or anything like that. So at your convenience, you can hop on and complete them. Once you've finished all 10 courses, you do receive a certificate of completion, and you have the opportunity to list yourself on the Wisconsin Respite Care Registry. These courses are also available in Spanish, and we are also looking at translating this to a third language in the near future. The 10 courses are here. I won't read them to you, but they are this is an intro into respite care providing. So very just high level understanding of what respite is. It doesn't go into any specific diagnoses. So if someone has dementia, if someone has autism, we're not talking directly about any sort of care for that. So this would just be a very high level respite care. Kit for caregivers, knowledge, ideas, and tools. These are free online courses and resources just for family caregivers in case they need some help. So Respite 101 for family caregivers is just an introduction to respite in Wisconsin. Benefits of respite care, how respite care can work and what sort of settings that might happen in, how funding works in different opportunities, and how to apply for those sources. A lot of these sometimes family caregivers don't have the ability to take a course from start to finish. You don't have to take the course from start to finish. You can pick and choose kind of how you want to make this course help you. How to hire, train, and retain respite workers. This is huge. If you find a respite care provider that works for you and your caregiver, you want to keep them. You want to make sure that they stay with you. You want to make sure that you are fostering that relationship. So we have a little course here tailored to that. How to hire them, how to train them to get what your care recipient needs, and also how to keep them with you, how to make sure that we're caring for that relationship. We are, keeping in mind their needs as well as our own and our care recipients' needs as well. We understand that some caregivers do not have the time to take all of these courses. So we do have sheets available. So if you're looking for just like hiring or circles of care, if you're looking for interview questions, situations, getting to know yous, anything like that, we do have that available as well so that you don't have to sit down and commit yourself to the course. The next one is Kit for Respite Care Providers. This is how to market yourself as a respite care provider and then becoming an independent respite care provider. This kind of came out of people taking the respite care provider training, and they would say, now what, right? So now I'm a respite care provider, and what do I do? How do I find people other than being on the registry? So there are a couple of courses in here just about making sure that, where would you market yourself? What kind of clients are you looking for? How do you make that happen? Do you need a website? All these kinds of things. Rachel, I'm going to let you go into bringing respite to your community.
Yeah, absolutely. And man, Les, you got this down to the minute to leave 5 minutes for Q&A at the end. Must have done time too. So bringing respite to your community. Backing up all of our trainings are online. And I just want to touch on, if you need to repeat a training, you can. If you want a refresher, that is absolutely just fine. But bringing respite to your community, this is free. It's online. It could be completed at your own pace. And this is really, gosh, I want to scroll up. I feel like there was a question. I said I wouldn't quality care. Is there a training that so now I'm like changing gears for a second and reading a question. Is there a training that informs of specific steps for respite agencies to onboard clients who meet respite criteria, yet is not linked to a waiver program? Bringing respite to your community, this workshop written by a subject matter expert is going to give you all the things you need to start an agency. We also have people who have owned agencies or owned their own business for a month, a year, take the workshop and they learn a lot of things. And it's free and you can do it at your own pace. I know it does take brain power, but we encourage anyone to go through it. So you're assigned some reading, you're assigned some work in between. It used to be a virtual face-to-face 6-week course, and we realized that we could get individuals through the training faster if we were to make it like on-demand work at your own pace. So that's why we changed the platform. But to pass or to get that certificate of completion, you have to create a business plan. And then you meet with we're contracted with Val Madsen from Calm Horizons, absolute subject matter expert in all things respite and businesses and agencies. And you present your business plan to Val. And you either get your certificate of completion or you're asked to redo a few things, but we're not going to give certificates of completion aren't given to people who don't follow the assignments and go through everything that is expected, because essentially people take this class or this workshop, whether they want to apply for the startup grant or not. But every time I say good stewards, take a drink. But to be good stewards of state and federal dollars, we need to ensure someone that applies for and has a great application for a startup respite grant, that they're getting that money, that they're trained, and they have all the tools and resources they need. I believe the next slide, anyone can order our RAT cards on our website. It's underneath resources. So if you're a professional and you want to have some RAT cards on our grant programs, on trainings, on anything, we send there's a list right there. There's About Us, free training, Respite Connections in the registry, grants for family caregivers. We also have them available in Spanish. Okay, so I am going to hit up the questions. Is this the same as the 10 course trainings that we were just looking at, or a separate training? Separate training. The 10 courses is the respite care provider training, and bringing respite to your community is I'm so used to saying a 6-week workshop. We recommend people take about 6 weeks to do it because you have some assignments, but some people do go through it faster depending on circumstances. All right, we are done with our slides. Are there any more? Can you list the contact info? So on the last slide of the page, the contact so is this like our contact info? Yep, Leslie, boom, threw it in there. So it's in the chat, our email. It's also on our website and also on the PowerPoint slides. It does take a little bit of time for a recording to upload on the cloud. So I would say no later than tomorrow. If you've registered for the webinar, you will get a copy of the slides and the link to the recording.
Real quick before we hop off, I just want to say that we also have a phone number listed. It does cover all 72 counties and 11 tribes. It can take time to get back to people. So you have to leave a voicemail and we will get back to you, but it does take some time. So if you're looking for an answer in a timely fashion, please feel free to send us an email. We will get back to you as quickly as possible.
Some more questions. In order to become an agency and accept payments, will I have to be certified through the state, such as a group home? Depends on the clientele that you're caring for. If you have two, and I'm going to defer to Val or regulations for this, but depending on the number of clients, their age, are they staying overnight? You may, or is it overnight care rather, you may or may not need different certifications. So we always refer to state statutes for that. Does RCAW cover the charge for providers to attend conferences? We used to, but that was a different pot of grant money that is no longer. So right now we don't. We just opened our business. Can we take the training and apply for the startup grant? Yeah, absolutely, Marie. If you want to go through the workshop and submit an application for the startup, absolutely. Hey, can we go back to my question as well? Karen, absolutely. If you want to unmute and tell me what question, I'm scrolling up, but can you repeat the trainings? That is neat. Nope, that was Diamond.
How many people can you take care of at a time? That really will depend. The same thing like Rachel mentioned about that licensing. It really depends on how you are providing care. Are you providing it in a facility? Who's funding that care? That's going to really depend on all of those numbers. So those are all regulated things depending on the age of care, the age group that you're caring for. If you want to talk further about that, I would be happy to talk with you, and any questions I don't have answers to, we definitely can find them on Wisconsin web pages. We can talk to Val. So we can help you find the answer to that, but until we know specifics of who you're caring for, what age group, in what setting, we wouldn't really have a direct answer to that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You bet. I see a, can I call you after the call to discuss what's needed to open a register? Have you taken, it doesn't have a name here. Have you taken the Bringing Respite to Your Community? Just says iPhone here.
Okay, so the contact info has already been listed in the chat. It's also on our website. I can absolutely add it back in, the info at, and it's going to be on the presentation. Let me see. You're welcome, Jeffrey. You're welcome, everyone. I'm going to type in our email. And if you received information on this webinar to join it, you already have our contact info, but we absolutely put it in the chat once again. All right, it is 2:01 on the head. Don't be strangers. Feel free to keep in touch. Email is the best way. We have a larger team. Well, we have about 3 people monitoring that info at. If you email info at, you're going to get Leslie, myself, another colleague. So if it's attention Leslie, you can absolutely address that in the email. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.